To open up this week on this Monday episode, is there immense pressure on CJ Stroud? And does it make sense, or can we see Nick Sirio trading during the draft?
You are Locked On Texans, your daily podcast on the Houston Texans. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Wow. That was fire. That was fire. For those of you who may be listening, the YouTube version of the show opened up a little different today.
And
music. Listen or watching. There was a different intro. We hadn't had an opportunity to see it. That was fire. And this is Monday episode of the Locked On Texans podcast.
I don't want to play it again.
I kind of do. I really want to play it again, but we'll have an opportunity to play it throughout the week. Thank you to all of our first-time listeners and viewers. This is your second, third, fourth, fifth, however many times coming back to the show. Thank you for continuing listening and watching the Locked On Texans podcast. Please be sure to subscribe, like, and comment on YouTube and wherever you listen to your podcast. Follow on social media at Locked On Texans. I'm your Texans football analyst, John Some Sports Guy Hickman. On the other side of the screen, Texans credential media member, Sports Illustrated's own Cody Davis. Fun show today, just a little talk, right? We're going to end off the show with YouTube comments. In the second segment, we'll be talking about whether we can see General Manager Nick Sirio and that team trading up during the draft. But we'll open up today's show just having a conversation on whether or not we believe that there is a lot of pressure on sophomore quarterback CJ Stroud. Today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel. Make every moment more. Right now, new customers get $150 in bonus bets. That's $150. Win or lose, just visit FanDuel.com/lockedon to get started. Going into his second year, the rookie of the year, offensive rookie of the year quarterback CJ Stroud has been given Stephon Diggs upgrades on defense, upgraded in the backfield, brought back Dalton Schultz. I think Houston did a very good job, again, on the defensive side of the ball, adding ways to create pressure on opposing quarterbacks, presumably being better against stopping the run. This is a much better team on paper right now than what they were going into last season, right? Especially going into the draft. We're still in draft season, but when August rolled around, right now, this is a better makeup of this team. And a lot of people, what's the talk right now? The contenders. They went from chicken tenders to real contenders in about 3 months, right? And then when you look at how this process has been since losing Deshaun Watson, trading Deshaun Watson to the Cleveland Browns, and they got the picks back. When you look at this process, no lie, it's looked a little bit, accelerated. So, going into his second year with all of the tools that he has, the weapons, right, a retooled defense, is there a lot of pressure on CJ?
I think so, without a shadow of a doubt. And this is no shot at CJ. John and I think he is going to be a phenomenal player in his career. As of right now, I think if I could put together a list of the top 10 quarterbacks in the league, his name would definitely be top 10. And if I can really make a correct argument, his name could possibly be in the top 5. But John, I just look at everything that we have been talking about throughout this whole entire offseason. And as you mentioned, looking at all the players that they brought in on both sides of the ball, because, you also got to take a look at how much, Coach D'Amico Ryans and Nick Sirio has elevated that defense with the addition of Danielle Hunter. But I look at it from a standpoint, everybody is going to have to play their role in order for the Houston Texans to build upon the success of the 2023 season. But when you look at CJ, he is part of the reason why the Houston Texans believe they have a shot to compete in 2024. And look, this is not an argument by saying that, if they don't win the Super Bowl or don't get to New Orleans for the Super Bowl or whatever the case might be, is going to be a failure. But I also look at it from a standpoint that there is a lot of pressure on that young man. A young man that is still, look, I understand he had one of the best rookie seasons of all time, but this is a young man who is still trying to find his niche in the league. And I also look at it from a standpoint, how much of it's going to play into the fact that they're definitely going to play a harder schedule. They have a first place schedule, and you have, a game against the Baltimore Ravens, a game against Kansas City, so many of the other teams that finished number one in their division. Look, I understand that we, throw a lot of shade and have made fun of the Dallas Cowboys, but you can at least respect them in the regular season. And the Houston Texans are going to face off against them in the regular season, especially a defense, and they definitely have a top 5, top 10 defense. But, I just look at it from a standpoint that I understand he's going to live up to it, but there is so much pressure on that young man for him to not only replicate the performance, replicate the success that he had individually, but just try to elevate this team as a whole. And it's almost like a lot of times when you look at a quarterback in this situation, they're not doing it in their second season. I understand that we have seen quarterbacks, make a tremendous leap in year 2. Lamar Jackson, Patrick Mahomes, but at the same time, neither one of those guys did not have that expectation going into their second season. True. So I just look at it
set for a good amount of their rookie year.
They're both set. Now look,
Lamar took over towards the end.
Yeah, look, and they came out of nowhere in year 2. And that's another thing that I'm also looking at this. Everybody has film on CJ. And they are really coming for him next season. So, look, I think he's going to live up to the expectation, but there's going to be a lot of pressure on that young man to try to lift this organization in year 2. Not 3, not 4, not 5, year 2.
The other day, we just heard Hannah McNair say, we want to win right now. So, the question, is there immense pressure on CJ Stroud? Absolutely. There's no way around it, no doubt. When your owner comes out, the wife of the owner, and the huge role that Hannah McNair has played into the rebuild of this franchise, make no mistake, she's been an influential piece in this rebuild. When she goes out there on live TV, national TV, or whatever the case is, and say, we want to win right now, yeah, there's pressure. But the question, is there immense pressure on CJ Stroud? Yes. And there also should be an attachment. There's a lot of pressure on Bobby Sloyd. There's a lot of pressure on D'Amico. There's a lot of pressure on, I believe, Stephon Diggs. Hey, was it you or Josh Rilling in Buffalo? Who was it, right? A lot of us lean towards it was Josh. But who's to say that maybe Stephon lost 2 steps instead of 1, right? Maybe it was more to it that we hadn't seen, that maybe Houston will get another side of it. I don't think so, but I'm just putting it out there. When you make a trade like that for not only Stephon, but you sign Danielle Hunter, you trade for Joe Mixon, you upgrade at almost every position you need upgrades at, there's pressure across the board. So if Houston goes out there next year and they average 26 points per game, 27 points per game, but their defense is still last in passing defense, and they're also allowing 26, 27 points per game, well, look at that pressure that's on the defensive side of the ball, the defensive coaches, your head coach. If your defense is going out there and, top 10 in defense in the NFL, right? But offensively, you're still having some of the same miscues and issues from CJ Stroud's rookie year. Then you have to look at the quarterback. You have to look at Bobby Sloyd. You have to look at some of the things. Offensive line, are they still having some of the same issues? Are they healthy, or was it a mistake signing a player to this contract extension, right? So I think that for Houston overall, there's pressure on this team. I don't think there's been pressure. As a matter of fact, listen, the last time it was pressure on Houston, they only won 4 games.
How was that?
When you go up that big on Kansas City.
Nah, that was different though, man.
Wait. When they eventually win the Super Bowl, you had just won your first playoff game. I mean, not the first, but you just beat Buffalo. You lose to the eventual Super Bowl champs. going into that next season, and you retooled Deshaun Watson. Remember, he signed that extension. I don't like a lot of change.
But
they had a lot of pressure on them going into that season.
But it was different. I would say, as soon as the game ended, I will agree with you. But once they traded D-Hop and we looking around like, what the hell is going on with this franchise? The pressure kind of went down. Like, put it like this. Nobody expected the Texans to be just as good, damn sure not better after they traded D-Hop and it was at 1920. I know I didn't. And so I'm like, even then it's like
maybe not that, but they had expectations going into that year. No doubt about it. I think they did.
I mean, expectation what? Get back to the wild card?
But they had the expectations to be able to compete in the AFC, and they won 4 games that year. We probably disagree on that, but the expectations are different. I think the only person that does not have pressure on them right now is General Manager Nick Sirio. I went on, got you Diggs, I got Hunter, I got Mixon, I got Autry, I got Alshire. I brought in Okuda. I brought in 2 former first-round cornerbacks. And I mean, what's my boy name? Fatu Kauzi. I retooled and got back Dalton Schultz. Right, and he did everything he needed to do. And I think I'm missing a couple. Lonnie Johnson, can't forget Lonnie Johnson. I think he's the only one that doesn't have any pressure on him. But coaching staff down, ownership, you miss out on general manager, and then coaching staff down because the ownership placed the expectations 4 days ago, 4 or 5 days ago. The pressure is on this entire franchise. CJ Stroud is the face of the franchise, and I think that's why we're having that conversation because regardless of what Houston does, if they're successful, and you hear it all the time, right? Whenever the team does good, it's on the quarterback. Whenever the team does bad, it's on the quarterback. So whichever way they go, we're going to look at CJ Stroud for the most part and say what's going on. Now, again, if he's going out there and doing what he needs to do, then yeah, you look around a little bit. But overall, I'm not going to just put it on CJ. Hey, D'Amico, I want to see you, cut down on being a number 26, 27, whatever it was, passing defense. Hey, on the offensive side of the ball, Bobby Sloak and the Chris Stroud, offensive line coach. Can you coach this offensive line to be able to create successful running lanes for Joe Mixon, Damian Pierce, and whoever's back there? It's on everybody, man. It ain't just on the young buck. He'll just be the face to have to fall for it if it goes down. Passion, drive, and patience. The winning formula for winning championships is also what keeps your ride or die alive. eBay Motors has everything you need to maintain your vehicle and level it up to peak performance, from superchargers, roof racks, exhaust kits, LED headlights, and more. Whether you're into speed, power, or style, eBay Motors has you covered. With over 122 million parts for your number one ride or die, you'll always find exactly what you're looking for. And with eBay Guarantee Fit, your part is guaranteed to fit your ride every time or your money back. Because with eBay Motors, you're burning rubber, not cash. With all the parts you need at the prices you want, it's easy to make your car the MVP and bring home huge wins. Keep your ride or die alive at ebaymotors.com. Eligible items only. Exclusions apply. eBay Guarantee Fit only available to U.S. customers. Also, guys, I've been told that I'm a competitive person. Cody, you've been knowing me for a very long time. Do you think that's true?
Yes, especially on the basketball court, playing one-on-one. Like, just why are you taking this game so serious?
Oh, man. Okay, well, yeah.
I hit you with that 1-2 step 2.
Remember that? I don't remember that. But I do have a competitive side. We all do. And my competitive side is a big fan of Monopoly Go. I'm sure you've heard of it. It's been downloaded over 150 million times. I'm a part of the downloaded person list. It's a great twist on Monopoly where you play on not one, but hundreds of Monopoly boards. It's crazy, in crazy locations, building up amazing cities that bring you big money. The best part, The best part, I'm messing with my friends. I can charge them rent on my iconic property, just like classic Monopoly. But now I can also rob their vaults of riches for myself. And the leaderboards show me who the biggest Monopoly tycoon is. So let's all get in on that, right? But it's not just my competitive side that loves it. You can team up with friends and people all around the world in time tournaments to earn huge rewards. So go to or get in on the action, right? Join your friends, join the game. Go to the App Store, download Monopoly Go right now for free in the App Store or Google Play. Again, download Monopoly Go for free in the App Store or Google Play. Welcome back into this Monday episode of the Locked On Texans podcast. Are we really confident that Nick Sirio is going to stay at the current picks that he has, Cody? What are the lists right now for the draft picks right now? I know it's 42.
Yeah, as of right now, they have, starting with 42, they have 2 picks in the second round, 1 in the third, 2 in the fourth, 2 in the sixth, and 2 in the seventh. Nick Sirio, for some reason, loves that 5th round. So, you're talking about, the possibility of him trading around in the draft. That is a round I could definitely see him getting back into, especially considering when you look at rounds 6 and 7, they literally have 4 picks. And Nick Sirio, correct me if I'm wrong, I don't think he has drafted in the 7th round. He's always maneuvering his picks around when it comes to day 3. And I want to say maybe 2021 might be the last time, because I know the last 2 years, especially last year, he traded both of his 7th round picks.
I just don't see it, man. And if I'm being honest, I think that it'll be primed for Nick to either move on from maybe 127th or 188. So you're looking at the second 4th rounder or the first 6th rounder. Honestly, I could see him, man, 42, 59, 86. I really see Nick moving up into the 2nd round. He already has 59.
Hey, you
86.
So 3 second round picks?
I could see it.
No.
I could see it. No, I could see it. I mean, he already has 2 right now. So either he'll take 86, right? And I'm looking at it right now. Either he'll take 86 and move up, or he'll take 59 and move back.
Yeah.
But I don't see, those first 3 picks, I just really don't see him staying at all 3. 42, I think, is a lock. I think 42, you're going to see Houston draft the best player available. I think after that, that's when you're really, and when I say best player available, I think that they're going to draft board. Who's a guy on our draft board that we feel like is a game changer that we can get at 42? But then after that, I can see Houston just saying, hey, let's move around a little bit. And let's get some guys we really do like, right? And if it's like Tank Dell wouldn't have been a Texan if they would have just sat on their hands.
Yeah.
They moved up to go get him in the 3rd round. I really don't see Nick staying out of those first 3 picks, staying put. If he does that, I'll be shocked. Honestly. He's traded up every year.
Yeah, you're right. And that's where I was about to go. And I wonder how much of the foundation being said, I wonder how much of this team having high expectations, like we talked about in the first segment, I wonder how much is this going to change Nick Sirio's mindset on how he's going to attack the draft? Because John, ever since Nick Sirio, this is going to be his 4th draft. Damn, this is 4th draft already. Ever since he has been the general manager of this team, this is the first time where he's going to be drafting not for players to lay a foundation, but they're going to be players he's going to be adding to this foundation. And then, I think you and I had this conversation last week. every single position has at least 2 to 3 players where it's like, okay, if the season started tomorrow, we know they're going to be the starters. The last couple of seasons, it was like, look, you got to draft cornerback number one. You got to draft a day one starting quarterback. You got to draft somebody that could come in and, arguably be your best, if not your best, your second best linebacker. Shout out to Christian Harris. But, it was always like they just had to get that foundation laid. Now it's like, okay, you know where you want to go. Who are some of the players on this draft board that are actually going to help us get to where we want to be come January, hopefully February of next year? And that's why I'm looking
Nick
at it
trading up from 42.
I don't see him trading up for 42.
Maybe going and getting into the 30s.
It depends on how much the asking price is. Now, look. We covered Nick Sirio for the longest. I don't think he has had a draft where he drafted in the 7th round. I know he didn't do it last year. I mean, you got 2 picks in the 7th round. Maybe he could package that and try to move up one way or another. But, man, it's going to be interesting to see how much Nick Sirio mindset changes in the draft, man, because the last couple of years, when you take a look at Tank, you take a look at Nico, I think Damian Pierce, him too. I mean, you're looking at 3 guys that he actually – to your point, John, they didn't sit on their hands, saying, we hope that he could fall to us at this particular pick. No, Nick has shown that if there's a guy that he likes or there's a guy that the head coach likes, they're going to do whatever it takes to get him in. I'm pretty sure it's going to be the same this year, but I wonder if he's going to go to the extreme like he did the last 2 years.
That's a good point, and I didn't think of that because the last few years, they wasn't this team.
They wasn't even a team.
I mean, and again, we could talk about all the, till we turn blue in the face. Nick inherited it was really messed up. And he's done a good job. And so, that's a good point. I didn't think of that. Maybe now that you have a Danielle Hunter, Stephon, all of these guys and the CJ Stroud overall, do you go about just saying, hey, you know what? Maybe I don't need to do a lot of dibbling and dabbling and trading. Maybe I'll just go out there and stay put and get the best guys available. Brandon Hill was the only 7th round draft pick in Nick Sirio's tenure to this point.
Oh, that was last year.
That was last year.
I thought for sure he was a 6th round pick. I'm sorry, y'all.
He was a 7th round. 248. Didn't play last year. Last year's draft class, by the way. CJ, Will, Juice, Tank.
And that's already the greatest class in franchise history. Because 17 was good. I think
17 was Watson and not McKinney, Cunningham.
Yeah, Watson, Cunningham, and somebody else was in that draft class. I think 11 with JJ, that was good. And I feel like there might be one more, if I'm not mistaken.
The 2017, so shout out to Deontay Foreman. Should have been the Texans' great running back. He was also in the 2018 draft. Carlos Watson was in that 2017 draft. Julian Davenport was in that class as well. 2011, J.J. Watt, Brooks Reed.
I remember him.
Brendan Harris. Yeah. Rock Carmichael. T.J. Yates was in that draft class.
I feel like there's a draft class we're missing. You want to count 2022?
Let's see.
There's Stingley,
That's a decent
Christian Harris. I think if
check this out. 09. Brian Cushing, Connor Baldwin, Antoine Caldwell, Glover Quinn was in that. So that's 3 ballers right there. You're looking at Brian Cushing, 13.5 sacks. Connor Baldwin, nearly 57 sacks. Glover Quinn, 24 interceptions. Bryce McCain was in that draft. 11 career interceptions. James Casey was in that draft, was a decent player for the Houston Texans. I know we're getting way off right now.
I know, right?
07 was a bad draft class. 06, Mario Williams, D'Amico Ryans. So the 06, Mario Williams, D'Amico Ryans, Charles Spencer was in that draft. Eric Winston was in that draft. Owen Daniels was in that draft.
Owen Daniels.
David Anderson was in that draft.
Dang, 06 was deep.
That's a good
Okay.
draft.
But even though we got way off topic.
Yeah, I'm sorry, guys.
But yeah, I could definitely like I say, man, I think that is one of the most exciting part about the Texans entering this new era of being, basically a contender in this conference, because I think, look, even when we look back at some of the past drafts, none of those draft class, none of the general managers who are responsible for that draft had the expectations placed upon them like Nick Sirio does this year. And I think this is going to be the first year where it's like, okay, we're definitely going to see Nick Sirio and his organization do something different that we never thought that they was going to do in this draft.
Hey, it's playoff time in the NBA and NHL. Baseball is in full swing, and FanDuel is your place to bet on every game. Right now, new customers get $150 in bonus bets guaranteed. $150 in your pocket, win or lose. You bet on everything from slap shots, home runs, slam dunks, all on an app, safe, secure, and easy to use. What are you waiting for? Visit FanDuel.com/locked-on and make your first bet an automatic win. FanDuel is America's #1 sportsbook. Welcome back, Locked On Texans listeners and viewers. YouTube comments. Let's dive right into them. So the other day we talked about should Houston still prioritize the running back position, and looking at whether or not drafting a running back is still important. Here's a conversation. Zachary Ryan's 5407 said we are one injury away. We still have to build depth across the board. Let's talk about that, man, because I do think that even with the expectations of the bigger names that Houston has signed this offseason, it's always important, and this is something I'm big on, making sure that your floor isn't as low as it should be. Like if your floor is closer to your ceiling because you got guys that can come in and still play good ball, then that helps you become a full, complete teams. And we've seen teams throughout the course of it, just watching the NFL, right? Once a player goes down, we've seen teams just kind of completely lose it, fall out, right? Not even from the quarterback aspect, but we've seen teams not be able to be successful if the running back goes down, if a wide receiver goes down, right? So I do believe, as we talk about the running back position, but just overall, that Houston should definitely build depth across the board.
Yeah, and you don't have to say teams. All you got to do is just go back and take a look at what we saw, what this team went through this past season. There's one thing that I would give Nick Sirio kudos for is the fact that, look, I understand last year, we started to see some players say, you know what, I want to give the Houston Texans a chance. And it was because of that we saw Nick Sirio and Coach DeMeco Ryans have an opportunity to add depth to every position. And we know that this team was hampered by injuries. However, when you look at the success they had, they was able to have that success because they had a roster that had not just players, but depth, valuable depth at every position, especially on the offensive line, because I do not believe that we would have seen the Houston Texans have their same success in 2023 like we saw if it wasn't for Nick Sirio going out and sign George Fant due to the unfortunate circumstances that took place with Titus Howard, John. And that's part of the reason why I'm looking at this from a standpoint of all of your number one guys are basically set at every single position, but I think that's what this draft is going to do. Add valuable depth at every single position because you never know what is going to take place.
Where do you see Xavier Hutchinson this year? This is from Scott Hogan, 6891, and then my man Frank Castle, 214. He said on the bench, laughing emoji. I don't know. How many receivers do we think Houston is going to carry this year?
I think they carried 6 last year because you had Nico, you had Tank, you had, well, it depends. Yeah, I think you carried 6.
Some guys were, inactive. So
yeah,
Nico,
I think 6 on a 53-man roster.
I think both John Mechie and Xavier Hutchinson have an opportunity to push Robert Woods, and who he don't need to be pushed, but push both Robert Woods, and Noah Brown out the way, right? And I think that when we get to training camp, we're going to see a battle between can Mechie be your wide receiver 4? Can Hutchinson be your wide receiver 5, right? And if they come into their second season, more acclimated to the game and a lot better, younger. Hutchinson is on a 6th round rookie contract, so he's cheaper than both Robert Woods and Noah Brown. John Mechie has, I think, a higher potential ceiling than Robert Woods at this point in his career. Robert Woods had a great career, by the way. Don't let me, my jokes maybe get out of hand. He was a great player, especially for the LA Rams, but we could see a wide receiver group where it's Stephon, Nico, Tank, Mechie, Hutchinson.
I think that's best case scenario, John, but I think if we keeping it a buck, I think that camp battle might come down between Hutchinson and Mechie, because there's no way I can see Nick Sirio and D'Amico Ryans putting Robert Woods and Noah Brown in the camp battle. And think about it. Noah Brown could have left in free agency, but he decided to return. Yeah. So, and of course that was before the Stephon Diggs trade, Robert Woods, they love him in the locker room. So they're going to at least give him a 53-man roster just out of respect. So that is an interesting, an early camp battle between John Mechie and Hutchinson. So, one of them could be, your 6 wide receiver, and you put one on the practice squad roster. Of course, given injuries and stuff, majority of the time they're going to be elevated, or maybe you utilize one a little bit more so on special teams. I think when it comes to that, you're looking at a situation where Mechie could be their last wide receiver. Then, you're looking at a situation where Hutchinson will play more on the special teams. But that is an interesting conversation that we probably need to dive into more, especially when OTAs and stuff start.
I didn't think of it that way. Last comment. This was one. Jordan Davis ran at 4.7. Sweat is not more twitchy, but we need Sweat. And this is from Trevor Thompson, 811. Mr. G Money, Greg backed me up a little bit. Twitchy is not straight line speed. And I just want to kind of back that up. Yeah, man, twitchy just ain't point A to point B. Mm-hmm. Not when you D-tackle, right? Maybe when you play receiver, even with that, you got guys that can run 4.3, but you got guys that run 4.5s that just know how to get open with their route running ability. When I say twitchy, especially for a defensive tackle, Sweat is just, I think he has a better use of his hands, different ways to get after the quarterback, different ways to impact the game. Also, I don't worry about Sweat's conditioning like I worry about Jordan Davis. No,
that's a negative against his draft profile.
Not for me. It's not. He's a big boy though. He's big. Mm-hmm. But in year 2 in the NFL, and my boy Coop pointed this out, there were a lot of times where I had to look at Jordan Davis and was like, man, are you tired right now? The game just started. Do you want to be on the field right now? I don't think I have to worry about that with Sweat. Now, in the last week, we've had 2 driving issues, so you worry about that. But in terms of being twitchy as a D tackle, man, I think that he is much more fluid than Jordan Davis coming out. And again, condition-wise, I would rather go with T. Sweat than Jordan Davis. Thank y'all for listening to this Monday episode of the Locked On Texans podcast. Please be sure to subscribe, like, and comment on YouTube. And wherever you get your podcast, follow me on Twitter at John_Hickman12.
And as always, I'm your host, Cody M. Davis. Please remember to follow me on Twitter at Cody Davis_24. Once again, that's Cody, COTYDAVIS_24. I know we opened up the show talking about CJ, which means later on today, you guys are going to hear from CJ, D'Amico, and Will Anderson Jr. And I'm pretty sure we're going to have a lot of questions and a lot of updates, a lot of quotes for you guys in terms of a lot of the off-season acquisitions that they made. I cannot wait to hear what Will Anderson Jr. has to say about not only being paired with Danielle Hunter, but losing arguably, if not his best friend in the locker room, JG and Jonathan Grenard. But until next time, ladies and gentlemen, peace.